We want monetary donations. That's something that these folks they're already putting a board together. The mayor will talk about that to distribute that different type of funds. Good? Please tell them that. Because already this morning we're finding out a lot of different towns around Illinois are like, we ought to do a clothing drive. Thank you, but no. We don't need a clothing drive. We need money to help these folks recover. With that being said, we'll do the same thing we did. We're going to start around the room. Sir, Craig, you're up.
Greg Firstenhouse, Superintendent of Taylorville Community Unit School District Number 3, GREGG FUERSTENAU. After further assessment of our buildings and transportation routes, Taylorville Community Unit School District Number 3 will be in session tomorrow. We've had our staff in buildings today, and our conversation with our food service department, we are all systems go, as well as our transportation department. We were fortunate that our buses and our bus facility was not impacted by the storm. There are certain areas in town, particularly those stops at Hewettville, where those parents will be contacted by the bus company to make arrangements if a stop is not available at that time. But once again, to reiterate that, Taylorville Community Unit School District Number 3 will be in session tomorrow.
Thank you.
Andy Goodall, I'm the Assistant Fire Chief. I'll defer to Chief Cruz and let him.
Mike Cruz, Taylorville Fire Chief, MIKECREWS, in Christian County Emergency Management. First off, we do have an additional number of homes. I believe the number is 32 additional homes that we've located that did receive damage. We're going through those numbers. Yes, we can't really expand on that quite. We'll do that the next. But our focus today with the damage assessment was to do the businesses, and we did find several that, of course, were damaged. But we did find extra homes that we'll be speaking with the mayor about soon, along with our health and building officer. So we'll be managing that. A big focus today is going to be on donations management, as Mr. Gashford said, and volunteerism. We know people want to help. We know when people want to donate things. We have to have a plan in place to do that, and it's well on the way to being documented right now. We learned yesterday, probably surprisingly so, that a lot of these homeowners had not spoke with their insurance companies. We weren't necessarily expecting that. So we're setting up, this was just arranged a few minutes ago, so what's called a MARC, and that's going to be a human resource, human need warehouse, if you will. We're looking at a day to get that up and running of Wednesday, if all things come into play. That's going to be located at Vision Way in their, I believe it's just called a conference center. And what we'll do with that, we're going to have the Department of Insurance there. My office will be there, a representative from the city, the Southern Baptist, Team Rubio, probably the Lutheran response agencies, someone from a damage assessment, Red Cross. And so the idea with that, as soon as that person walks in, he'll be given an ambassador, if you will. And each insurance company will be set up at their own table. Each organization will have their own table. So that ambassador will be able to walk in from table to table to table so they can make a ticket. These people will be pre-identified by default because these are the homeowners that we've identified through our damage assessment. So that's going to be the security, if you will, that we know these are bona fide victims from the disaster. So this is a fantastic way to reach out to people and to meet all their needs across the board. Just as an FYI, probably within the last hour, we received a large donation from Lowe's Hardware. So it may seem a little contradictory to what we've just said, but they arrived in town. So what we're going to do, we don't necessarily want, we haven't established a time that we're going to distribute, but we're going to set the location of probably Gagny's distributors on Spencer Street, and we'll donate those goods appropriately and securely to families that need those type of items, tarps, shovels, anything that they're bringing to us. We're going to get those things out to us. So again, we have a very busy emergency operations center working right now across the street on donations management and volunteerism, and a few other things. So we're making headway on that. I'll let the sheriff defer to the traffic and the roadways.
Mayor Bruce Berry, B-A-R-R-Y.
Mike.
And I'd just like to, we are accepting monetary donations. We need people to make the checks out, as Joe said, to Missions for Taylorville. And they can send them to 115 North Main, attention city clerk. It's Taylorville, Illinois, 62568. Or also, we're set up with U.S. Bank. They can make donations at their U.S. Bank facility in honor of disaster relief for Taylorville, Missions for Taylorville. So if we can get that out. Also, the curfew will remain in effect the rest of the week probably. We'll probably have another update maybe Thursday or Friday to see if we'll lift the update. And it's only in the affected areas that have been hit by the storm. Later this afternoon, we will be going door to door in the affected area, handing out pamphlets on telling the owners on how to separate the wood debris from the shingles and things like that. So we'll go door to door with that. We got a few volunteers to do that. And other than that, just want to thank everyone. Thank the governor for coming again yesterday. Thank Congressman Davis. Andy Menard has reached out to me. Avery Bourne has reached out to us. And Governor-elect Pritzker reached out to me this morning. So anything that we can do in the future, everyone's well aware of it. And we'll hopefully get state and federal help in the future. Thank you.
Sir.
My name is Bruce Kettlecamp. Kettlecamp is spelled Kettelkamp, the sheriff of Christian County. I too want to mimic what the mayor said. It's just unbelievable how much support we've got from outside agencies. I even got contacted from Cook County Sheriff's Office that they will bring all of Chicago down to help us. So it's just amazing about the people that's reached out to help us. Another thing this just came in this morning. I'd like to announce that the Christian County Sheriff's Office has received a very generous donation from an anonymous individual, and we have set up an emergency relief fund for Christian County residents. This fund is to go directly to the people that are affected by the tornadoes, and these monies will be used for food, clothing, medicine, and for school supplies. It's not for rebuilding or anything like that, but it's just for the immediate needs. So they can contact anybody that needs money for these needs, such again as food, clothing, medicine, school supplies. Contact the sheriff's office at 824-4961 and ask to speak with Lieutenant Scott Woods. He's in charge of this. So again, we have a very, very generous donation, and we will be able to help out a lot of people in need. We're very pleased to announce that. The other thing, as far as like the mayor said, is the curfew. We had the curfew last night. I think everybody really obeyed by that. We were really pleased. There was not much problems out there. We did have one arrest, but it was an individual that we're kind of familiar with. They were warned the first time. They came back into the area, and they were not arrested for a curfew violation, but they were arrested for possession of meth. The other thing I'd like to talk about, I just went out, I just come back in from out there. Traffic, there's a lot of work crews, and it's amazing. I just can't get over how amazing how much they've got done and how much they've removed. But they're still out there full bore, and we've got to get through those roads, and it's hard for those big trucks and electricity. And we still have some gawkers out there. So I'm still asking for people. I mean, it's not near as bad as what it was, but I'm still asking people to avoid that area if at all possible. You only need to be in there if you live there, or just stay away. We don't need any gawkers out there. But I also want to clarify one thing too. We got a complaint that was called in today that said that the state police were stopping people from coming into Route 29. Well, that's completely bogus. That's, as we all know here recently, that's fake news. I don't think we even have a trooper that's helping us today down in this area. There's been no traffic stops, but Supposedly, there was people complaining that they weren't able to get into Taylorville. We want people to come into Taylorville. We're open for business. We just don't want people in the affected areas from the tornado. I think that's pretty much all I got.
Chief Cruz, you talked about management of donations. What about management of volunteers? What's the protocol for that?
Well, we're working on that as we speak. So we have a pot of people that we brought in from the state, county, and others from adjoining counties. We're literally working on a protocol for that. We'll be able to get that out our way, hoping by the end of it.
Yeah, look at the Facebook page, the information will be on the Facebook page.
I know we're mainly talking about cleanup at this point, but I heard accounts of the roof of the old Taylorville Pepsi being ripped off. I know a lot of people, you talk about a tornado, they picture the impact of the tornado and the winds hitting the home or a building, but I guess as you clean this up, you just have to feel lucky when you have a roof like that, a big roof, old style construction, lofted into the air and hitting other buildings, that there wasn't something, I imagine the fatality potentials through the roof of that maybe is going a little faster than that tornado coming into town.
No, as we said yesterday, I'm so happy it happened during the day, first off, I'm so happy we canceled the parade, that we would have hundreds of people downtown, right where we would have been, so. I mean, we can look at this all day. There's, sometimes we've stopped and amongst ourselves in the EOC and said it's hard to put your arms around the luck that we've had. We all completely understand how bad it is out there, but there's a lot of things that have worked in our favor. So.
And you had an update on how many homes that were destroyed. How many in total at this point?
If that number was correct, I believe the last count was 506. So we can do the math.
That's in the news release.
Yeah. So it's.
Okay.
That's probably gonna go up this afternoon.
Yeah. So we're.
Initial was 34 destroyed, 66 with major damage, and then 406 had received some type of damage, but not counting the additional.
And that's
32.
probably gonna go up because they did some more assessments.
Say it again, please.
There was 34 homes destroyed, 66 with major damage, and then 406 had some type of damage.
Right, so that's based on the FEMA criteria, and our system teams were done within the hour, and so they just gave me that. I just glanced through, knowing that we talked to this when we get out there, we did have additional homes. I think at a quick glance, it was 32, but that was actually homes and businesses. So the totals from yesterday's total were 506. So I mean, these are hard numbers that we can verify those. But I suspect these numbers will continue to grow. Not indefinitely, obviously, but maybe an extra day.
So do all of those numbers include businesses in addition to homes, or just the numbers?
The 506 would be homes only and apartments. These will include residences and businesses.
Okay.
And
Chief Cruz, you commented on the wind speed last night, 145 miles an hour. Has the National Weather Service released a classification for the storm?
No, they have not. I gave them a quick wave as they walked out the door, and they're on boots on the ground, and I hope to, and of course I expressed to them, we have a lot of folks very interested in that. They did estimate, well, two things. They are fairly certain, at least they've seen two tracks, I saw the tracks, that we were double hit by two funnels. So, they were estimating wind speeds of in excess of 125 miles.
I think they're gonna be at the 4 o'clock press conference.
Yeah.
They said they were gonna be at 1 to 2.
Where they would
There's been some
determine?
rumors that this storm, this funnel stayed on the ground all the way from Raymond through Taylorville, which would be unprecedented, I think. Is there any truth to that?
Well, unprecedented. I mean, in history, we can look at storms that have done that have traveled many miles. But I would probably, I would probably challenge that. Just keep in mind that when this storm was on the ground, we were, just many of the folks on this table were reporting tornado on the ground, but then the funnels may have been coming up, come back down. But it appears there was two tornadoes that was working through. So as we were getting those reports, Chief Goodall was in real time forwarding that to the weather service on Starcom radio. So I don't know if your thoughts were that it stayed on the ground the entire time. So I think you had eyes on it at some point. I think Joe did too. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but
My chief deputy was out, and he said that he was following two of them. They would come down and then go back up, come back, and he followed for a half an hour. And then he said at one point the two came together, the one that he was following.
Do you know the duration of time? I know you said for a half hour there when they came together. Do you know how long they were in the area, or do we have any sort of estimate?
no, I'm just certain though that we'll try and get some more information on that for the weather service. She'll address that.
Illinois State Police yesterday had a plane in the air. What they do is they follow the debris path. And when they see the debris path, if they lose debris, obviously the funnel wasn't on the ground, but they pick up the debris paths again. So they've got access to all that information, and that's kind of what they're analyzing. And I saw them this morning at 9, and they said they'd either be here at this press conference or the next one, so I'll try to pin them down and get them at the next one.
They would be in the next.
And I will say, we did have a picture that was floating around, I've seen it, it looked like it had 7 funnels on it, so it's just, so there, that goes, links to the extra luck we had, I guess.
One more thing for you too, before I forget, on page 2 of the news release, the Salvation Army has got a pointed distribution at the Christian County Fairgrounds this evening for people that need it. They're gonna have a drive-through, they're gonna be able to provide cleanup kits, trash bags, gloves, tarps, and bottled water from 3 to 7 at Christian County Fairgrounds. That's the actual Salvation Army's doing that, so that's something for citizens to go get if they need it, okay?
Sheriff, I know you mentioned you received a generous anonymous donation. Is there any estimate or a ballpark you can tell us about how much money was donated to the sheriff's office?
I'd just like to say it was quite generous.
Real quick on the businesses, I know we focused rightly, I think, on residences, but do we have an idea on numbers of businesses affected, damaged, and are there resources, state or otherwise, for those folks?
We have our Chamber of Commerce, Patty, can you expand on that?
We don't have an exact number, but the ones that were damaged are pretty significant. And, we assume that insurance can take care of those particular needs. But the impact of the community as far as the business community, that'll be longstanding, and it's gonna be hard to detect what that's going to be.
Name and title?
Patty Hornbuckle, PATTY-HORNBUCKLE. I'm the CEO of the Greater Taylorville Chamber of Commerce.
Do we know how many businesses, I don't know if you guys already said this and I missed it, but how many businesses were damaged?
The last I heard was about 12.
12. Okay.
Chief injury totals have stayed the same since yesterday evening, 21, 2 of which were critical. That's not increased.
Not that I'm aware of.
Any words of warning to people who maybe aren't usually do-it-yourselfers, picking up a chainsaw for the first time, or just not to get in over your head, do more than your, I guess, skill set or experience would allow?
Right, well, as we said yesterday, the individual that had a cardiac event, because he was probably over-exerting himself, I guess, but no, certainly if you have a certain skill set, keep in mind that we have the Southern Baptists on the ground now with those skill sets. They're going to be here in Mass. We may be bringing in the Lutherans soon, and we have Team Rubicon. Perhaps the best word right now might be a little patience as we get to these different homes, and I completely understand. But we do have folks that do this for a living. I believe, if I could tell on you a little bit, I believe you just got back from Hurricane Michael.
Correct.
Had a little bit of sleep, and here he is here. That's what you're seeing, folks. That, to me, that speaks volumes of what, and that's one story, but you have hundreds of these kind of folks out there. So, and these people do have the skill sets to make not only a community but an individual home whole again by removing those woody goods and everything else. So I think that's probably the best message, just to, and whether it's not the best, obviously, let these volunteer groups do their thing as they move through.
So I guess shocking to see just the amount of debris that comes into play. I mean, I know the cleanup, that kind of cleanup part maybe hasn't started, but I know in Joplin it took months and months and months. Of course, that's a worst case scenario, but is it just stunning to see just how much, I mean, like, just getting rid of all of these trees.
Yeah, so
must be one kind of logistical,
no, of course it is. And so what we've really, from almost day one, we've been burning out the burn pile. What we're seeing the after effects of that, though, the roads there are starting to diminish. So the 2 active, well, really 3 active resources that we have, I believe, from the state right now, we're going to be bringing in the Illinois Department of Corrections and Department of Transportation, not only for trucks, but also for road pack to be able to build those roads back up. We had a cautionary statement today with the amount of heavy equipment that's traveling the roads today. We may have to look at some roads that will suffer from that, but we have a request for what's called an air curtain, which will really increase and reduce the pollution of the things that we're burning, and so we're working on all of that, and that's, these things will take time. So it's hard to predict how long until all the streets are clear. But as the sheriff mentioned, I mean, all you have to do is take a picture of one road today, what it's going to be like tomorrow. We're making enormous inroads on that. So
We also have over in the EOC, which you'll see the EOC this afternoon too. The folks from the Illinois Emergency Management Agency are there. Okay, if you're gonna request any kind of federal or state disaster assistance, that's the agency that you gotta go through. So they're there, and what happens is when Chief Cruz gets the numbers from damage assessment, it goes right to IEMA. The IEMA folks analyze that, and then they decide if that's the numbers and the amounts they see are gonna make citizens eligible for assistance. Now, when we get to the point where that becomes discussion, we'll bring one of the IEMA folks over and let them talk to you about exactly how that goes. But what you try to do in these events is you reach forward. So what we're trying to do is reach forward with the IEMA people to say, do we have a situation here where we can either bring individual assistance to the homeowners or public assistance to those other entities that were affected that are the roads, some of the other different kinds of infrastructure. That's yet to come. You'll see those people, we'll bring them to you. You'll be able to ask them questions. They're there with us right now. They've been embedded in EOC since day one. Okay, and they're gonna be looking all this stuff over. They give us advice, they give us guidance on what we should be looking. They talk to us about damage assessment. Here's what we gotta have, here's what you need to give us, get it to us as quick as possible. Here's the form it's gotta be in, so all that's being done right now. So they will be coming and talking to you at later press conferences to explain to you exactly how we're going through that process, all right?
Could you make any predictions if you think you'll get to that threshold that you need?
We would make no prediction.
Chief, any update on power outages?
It's in here. I think
Okay, yeah,
they're
sorry.
saying, they're down to, 313 customers are still without power, but I'm glad you asked that question because people need to understand this. Okay, Ameren will restore power to these homes, but the homeowner's responsible to get their service ready to go to what's referred to as the weatherhead, which is on top of the pole on the side, or if it's a trailer function, it's on top of a pole and then they bring it to the trailer. The citizens have to get that ready to go. Once that, they have got that done, they've fixed the breakers, they've got the new weatherhead, they've got the service there, Ameren can hook them back up. But they can't go into a home, obviously, that is destroyed and hook it back up because the homeowner's not ready for it. When they start reconstruction, a lot of times what the homeowners will do is they'll have a pole in the ground, they'll have a service on the pole, and Ameren will restore power to that. But some of these, some of these numbers will eventually hit a point where the homes are destroyed and we're not gonna be able to get all those people back in service until they start getting things ready to go and rebuilding. But that's when Ameren will come back in and make that happen.
I know the state gets its bad press and everything else, but I know it's the birthday today. Anything that stands out about the character of Illinois through this whole episode and others like it.
These IEMA people are very dedicated public servants. They are good, they have been through this before, this is not the first rodeo they've ever been to. They're giving us advice that we can use that's good advice. And so as far as the emergency response side of the state of Illinois, it's pretty strong, I think. So we're getting good information from these folks. The other thing is, it's like Chief Cruz said, and I'll mention it too. The elected officials have basically bent over backwards to help us out. And it's not that they want the press from it. They are legitimately concerned about the city of Taylorville, the mayor and the citizens. And that's really, if you stop and think about it, no matter what we're doing here, what we're really doing all this for is for somebody out there that lost their house. That's what we're trying to do it for. When they get their house back and they get back to where they can live a normal life, that's what we're all trying to do here. So we're really trying to serve those citizens.
Mayor, I know you said you spoke to Governor-elect J.B. Pritzker. I guess what was that conversation like, and did he give you any idea if he might be coming down here to look at the
He
damage?
did not give me any idea with that. He just said that anything Taylorville would need in the future to get a hold of him, and, he's not governor yet, but he will be shortly. But I just want to mention, Cruz has been wonderful in this situation. Taylorville's lucky to have a guy the competency of him. The ability to cancel the parade probably saved hundreds of people's lives in downtown Taylorville. And I just, probably my best decision as mayor in this 18 months is have Chief Cruz remain as chief of fire department.
Does that parade scenario remind you, like I remember Joplin, one of the big problems there, all these kids are leaving graduation, and I remember one of the kids killed, pulled up from the sunroof leaving graduation. I guess, people think, well, the tornado didn't hit the square, but people would have been leaving, they would have had bottlenecks and everything else.
Correct.
Yeah. People were flooding down into that area.
We did have some damage on the square. I know a couple businesses lost their roof, so who knows what would have happened if the roof would have came down and hit many constituents, so.
Let's do maybe one more and then we'll call it quits.
Dr. Personnel, can you address, you had dozens, maybe hundreds of students assisting with cleanup efforts. Can you talk about the character of Taylorville High School students?
Well, I think that we have a great student body in Taylorville that cares extremely a lot about our community. And that's part of what the school district values, giving back to your community, not only in the good times, but the bad times. So our coaching staff, our student council personnel, our regular teaching staff, and our administration are to be commended for their efforts in helping clean up Taylorville where they're needed in terms of that, so.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in an hour if you want to go on the tour at the fire department, which is a block away.